Okay, so yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about patent law, the careers in patent law, how you enter the field, and then we have a panel, as Ed mentioned, that are patent professionals, and also we're going to talk a little bit about a training program that helps people who are interested in entering into the patent law field. And so we have some participants from that program on our panel as well that'll talk about that. So we'll start with a brief little presentation.
All right. Does anybody know who this is? We'll be giving out a raffle if you,
You can guess who this is.
any guesses? All right, this is Lonnie Johnson. He's the inventor of the Super Soaker. It's it's one of the best-selling toys, water toys, that have well over $1 billion sales over its lifetime. Of course, Lonnie Johnson has a patent on this, and I think it was 1986 when he was granted the patent. And in the middle, you can see like an example of what a patent is.
Yeah, so he's a former engineer, actually. Does it say it up there? Yeah, he was an engineer at NASA. And so he actually has, I think like 120 different patents.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he has a lot of patents.
And basically the Super Soaker idea came from his work on an environmentally friendly heat pump that he was developing at work. And I think you can see the mechanism a little bit in that drawing there. Okay, so does everybody know what a patent is?
Oh, you do? Okay, good.
Do you want to give us a little explanation of what you know?
I would say it's a document that says that you own all rights to invention.
Yeah,
That's right.
that sums it up.
Yeah, that sums it up. Basically,
All
a
right,
patent.
we can go home
yeah.
now, folks.
Basically, the patent gives the inventor rights to stop others from making, using, and selling the invention without their permission. And in the patent field, there's about, I guess we could categorize into 3 different categories in the careers in patent field. It will be patent prosecution, which entails the life cycle of applying for a patent and getting a patent granted. Patent litigation, which is what happens when there's a dispute after a patent is granted. And also IP transactions, which is a buying, selling, and licensing of patents. And there are patent practitioners working on these fields. And the patent practitioners are kind of divided up into multiple categories. We have patent agents, who has taken the patent bar exam, are licensed professionals registered with the USPTO to consult and advise inventors apply for a patent application. There's patent attorneys, who has a law degree and are working the field of patent law. And there are technical specialists who we'll talk about a little bit more later. So we're gonna be covering a little bit about the most common questions we have about becoming a patent practitioner in the patent field. So we get a lot of questions. Is PhD needed to become a patent agent? Does anybody have a clue? All right, yeah, that's right. You don't really need, so PhD is not required to become a patent agent. However, a science and engineering degree is required. There's also ways to be eligible for the patent bar exam by taking a certain number of credits in science and engineering. Another question we get is law school necessary to become a patent practitioner? Does anybody know? Okay, that's right. And a lot of people think law school is too difficult and expensive. So in terms of becoming a patent practitioner, like I said, there's patent agents who have passed the patent bar exam, are licensed, registered with the USPTO to represent an inventor in the USPTO proceedings, which are procuring a patent, applying for a patent, and procuring a patent. And then there are patent attorneys who went to law school, but they do not necessarily need a patent. They do not necessarily need to be a registered patent agents. So they are patent attorneys who are registered patent agents, and there are patent attorneys who are just attorneys. There's this fine difference between them. And then there are people who are, the titles vary among companies and law firms. people who do not have a patent bar registration number or nor a JD from law school. There are technical specialists, patent engineers, patent scientists. What else? Patent business
Sometimes I call them
analysts,
law clerks.
law clerks.
Basically, like they're often students with a technical background who work at a law firm or in a, IP department of a company and do many of the same tasks that a patent agent would do without having passed the patent bar.
And then there are multiple ways to get funding for law school and mentorship throughout the program. So we kind of wanted to bring that up. Also, another question is, our patent attorneys, are they often in court? So we see a lot of attorneys in court. Again, we have a mixed mixed answers. So patent attorneys are not necessarily often in court.
I've never been in court.
So like I said, there's 3 different fields, right? Patent litigation, patent prosecution, and IP transaction award. Patent litigation attorneys are the ones who would go to court, but also in terms of cases, a lot of cases do get settled. So they do not always go to court. Patent prosecution attorneys or agents or patent practitioners in patent prosecution represent the inventor in front of the USPTO to apply for a patent application. So your dealings are with the USPTO, which is not court.
They're all-
And a lot of question we do get is it too late to when is it too late to become a patent practitioner? It's never too late. We have many, many patent practitioners who enter the field as their 2nd or 3rd careers even. And it's just a matter of being interested and following through.
And it's particularly valued to have had a previous career because you do need that experience, that technical experience really to effectively practice in the field. So a lot of companies and firms do look for folks that do have that experience.
That's right.
So some of the advantages of working in the field are life-work balance, and particularly in that regard, like flexibility in terms of, just your day, really. You can often, particularly as a patent prosecutor, you can you kind of know what you know the deadlines that are coming up. And so you can sort of model your day really as you want, take time off when you want, that kind of thing. There's a lot of potential for promotion and it's financially rewarding. As you can see, this is a graph of the salary for attorneys who are working at generally bigger law firms. And generally when you start as a patent attorney, everyone starts typically around the same time and you come in with a cohort of students, or not students, a cohort of attorneys who are in their 1st year. And right now, 1st year, attorneys make $215,000. And then the 2nd year, you move in lockstep with the cohort that you came in with. And so these are the salaries at those lockstep points. So you can see it can be, a fairly lucrative career. And then if you're a patent agent, so you don't have a law degree, they start at about 75 to 115K and then can move up as well.
And then the other advantages of being in the patent field is that you get to be in forefront of the technology and you get to make direct impact on innovation. There's also funding available while at school. There's job security. Patent agent and patent attorneys, we're pretty much recession proof. There's studies that when during recession, a lot of companies do invest in more in R&D. And there's an opportunity for you to become the next trailblazers. There is a diversity problem in the field, and that is what we're trying to tackle. And there are multiple ways to enter the patent field. And one of the programs that we want to kind of introduce you to today is the Patent Pathways program. It's a program dedicated to increasing diversity for underrepresented minorities and help them enter the patent field. And if you're interested, we have a website on that sheet that you have. It's a 3-part program. You apply for it, you get interviewed. If you get selected, you become a participant. And the program entails preparation and for the patent bar exam. which is sponsored by law firms and companies. So it's free. You get hands-on skills training, and you get an opportunity to meet potential employers. So we try to match you up with companies that are interested in have you go through the interview process. And there's an ongoing mentoring program throughout the program. And we can talk about this a little more after we hear about the experiences of the trailblazers that are joining us today. And let's see if everybody can see. There we go. I think we have all the panelists online.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, so this is our esteemed panelists here today. We have I think 6 panelists with us today. And I can't really see me. Okay, so we have Aaliyah Kingwood. Aaliyah is actually one of the participants in the Patent Pathways program. Aaliyah previously worked at, she went to school at Morgan, and she worked in the Center of Microwave, Satellite, and RF Engineering Lab. And she has a BS in electrical engineering. So as I said, she's also a participant in the Patent Pathways program. Then we also have Renetta Ellison. She is also a participant in the Patent Pathways program. Oh, that's so hard to say. She is actually currently she's a public health researcher and a epidemiologist by training. She has a technical background in biology, and she also has a master's in public health and epidemiology. And she's, as I mentioned, also currently participating in the Patent Pathways program. We have Kenya Pierre, and Kenya is actually, she has a background in chemistry and pre-med. She is a fellow Spelman alumni, and she's currently represented for Spelman, but she's currently the VP General Counsel at Strava, and she has many years of experience in the field. She's been working in the field for over 20 years. We also have James Bennin. James is currently, he's the owner and founder of his own IP firm, Onyx IP. He previously worked as a webmaster and software engineer. He has a background in computer science, and he's been in the field for over 15 years, over 16 years. We have Caduce Olinarian, and Caduce is currently the vice president of Avanci. He previously worked as a senior corporate counsel at Microsoft. I think we have a Microsoft person here, right? In the audience. And did you tell me you worked for Microsoft? No, someone else, I'm sorry. Okay, there was another person who said he was gonna come back. Okay, and he also practiced as a patent litigation attorney. He has a background in computer engineering, and he also has a master's in electrical engineering. And he previously worked as electrical engineer, and also held hardware design positions at various firms. Leo, we have Leo. Leo is a colleague at Holland and Hart, and he actually started his career, he directly started working as a patent agent after school. He has a BS in mechanical engineering, and he has a master's in control systems engineering, and he has also many years of experience in the field. He's been working for over 25 years in the field. I think I got everybody, right?
Yep, we did.
Okay, great. Good. All right, so panel, we have an interested group of folks here who are really interested in learning more about the field. I'll start with you, Leo. We talked a little bit about different types of, different areas that you can practice in patent law, prosecution and litigation. And those are, fairly common areas. Can you talk a little bit about what someone does in, if they're practicing as a patent prosecutor? Like, what do you do as a prosecutor?
Okay, sure. As a prosecutor, your job is to take your clients' ideas and inventions and just developments and get them through the patent process. So we typically will start out with talking with the inventors, getting to know what it is they have invented. Then we prepare an application that's going to be submitted to the patent office. During that time, the patent office will look at what we've submitted. They will search other patents, publications, different patent offices. It varies where they can find information, but they will use those as references to say, hey, what you say you've invented has already been invented, and here's what we have. And sometimes that can be in the form of a single patent, a single document, or it can be a combination of documents. So we'll go through a process where we essentially go back and forth with the patent office until we get some agreement as to what you can have as your invention. And that is defined by the claims of your patent, which essentially to make a comparison, the claims of your patent are similar to like your the boundaries on your property. So you might say, hey, my property line is here, and the patent office says, no, it's not. That's somebody else's property line. We need to narrow it down a little bit. You're trying to take over the whole block, but you only have one piece of one segment. So the claims that you end up with may be a little bit narrower than what you initially thought you were entitled to, but the claims are what defines your patent. And once you get your patent, if someone is infringing and you want to litigate, it's the claims that are going to be litigated. It's not everything that you feel that you invented or that you're entitled to. So that's, in essence, as a prosecutor, what you're going to do day to day. You're going to work with inventors, you're going to be preparing new patent applications, and you're going to be responding to correspondence from the patent office. And I don't know. Do you want me to?
No, that's great. Can you
great,
talk
yeah.
a little bit about like how you feel as a prosecutor, because we're going to talk next about what a litigator does, but how do you feel like your job as a patent prosecutor allows you to have, or if it allows you to have a good work-life balance, any flexibility? What are your thoughts about that as practicing as?
Okay, so as an attorney, particularly if you want to be in a big firm, work-life balance is kind of an oxymoron. It doesn't really exist. You're working all the time. However, I can say that as a prosecutor, I think you get the best work-life balance, because working with the patent office, things are on fixed dates. You get a correspondence from the patent office, it's due in 3 months. Worst case scenario, you can buy extensions of time. So everything has a fixed date. You know when it's due, you know what your schedule's like. You can plan it's a lot easier to plan your life around it. So I found that the work-life balance has been great from that perspective. I know from working in a larger firm, working on litigations, there is no work-life balance because you can't control when things are due. Sometimes it's based on what the judge says, it's based on what opposing counsel says. But with prosecution, you know what's coming up. You know what you have coming due for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, months, a couple of months ahead. So you can really plan your work-life balance that way. So that, I think, if you're going to be a lawyer and you are able to do patent prosecution, that's something that will give you a good deal of predictability in your life.
Good, thank you. And then, so on the flip side, let's talk about what it's like to work in the patent litigation space. Caduce, can you maybe talk about that? Because I know you have some experience as a patent litigator. Maybe if you can explain what you did in that role, and then maybe you can counter Leo and say whether or not you feel like, you know, that's the better role.
Thanks, Lisa. I mean, and thanks for NSBE for having us on this panel. You know, it would be a tall task to counter what Leo said, but there are benefits to being a litigator. So I started out my career as a patent litigator, mostly dealing with computer-related technology because that is my technical background, as said in the introduction. But the way I like to compare for me, litigation versus prosecution, it's more of a, you know, litigation I think is more of a team sport. So, you know, as you're going through it and all the unpredictability that comes along with scheduling and the judge's orders as a patent litigator are, you know, somewhat mitigated by other team members that you have that are working on the case with you and the case strategy. It's harder to balance as when you first start out, but once you get into the swing of it, you can. But for litigators, as Leo rightly said, you know, what we are looking at is we're looking at the claims of the patents or the statements that were made before the U.S. Patent Office, or, you know, what other people have done in the space that may overlap with the claims that you have in your patent itself. And then, you know, taking a case from beginning to the end, what you're then doing is trying to figure out, is there infringement? You know, is a product that is being accused of doing something, you know, within the scope of the claim or not? Or have other people made this product but just didn't have a patent for it before? So that would be called what we call the prior art. And as a litigator, it can be, you know, the case involves deposition, you know, you make appearances in court in front of a judge. There are other parties involved, and it is adversarial. So because of that, you know, it requires you to have a, you know, tough skin and you know, be able to write, be able to speak in front of people, and it's just different set of skills as you manage this. It's not personal, but it is adversarial. So but I don't think I've done a really great job of countering Leo's points, but nonetheless, I you know, it's exciting as you go through. So if you like the adrenaline of you know, essentially almost like going into a game on Sunday, you know, that's what you're going to get in litigation. So as opposed to prosecution.
Okay, very
If
good,
I
very
could
good.
just say, add two more things that I picked up. Part of the adversarial process that you may get involved in as a patent prosecutor is that when you prepare the patent and you work on it before the patent office to get it allowed, and it gets litigated, sometimes you will be the one being deposed. And I've been deposed a number of times on patents that I've worked on, and it's not fun. You know, again, it's not personal, but it is adversarial, and they will come down. So you
That's
can't
the point,
you can't take it personal. The other thing is, in terms of litigation being more of a team sport than prosecution, that is definitely true. You have to be able to work well with your team. And one way that I look at some of the personalities in terms of who might be better fitted for prosecution or litigation, I look at people who want to do prosecution tend to be engineers at heart who have a law degree. And people who are great at litigation and enjoy it are people who have an engineering degree, but they look at law and order and they say, you know, I want to be in the courtroom. I like this stuff. I like the adrenaline. I like working in teams. I want to depose people. I want to get the truth out of them. They want to be lawyers, but they happen to have an engineering degree, which benefits them in terms of patent litigation. So as you think about what you'd like to do, those are a couple of things to keep in mind.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Leo. That's really important to consider. In fact, that was one of our other questions, so. But I want to turn to Kenya now, because Kenya, I think, has a unique background and probably a unique perspective, because she's been able to sort of cross over from doing standard sort of patent law work into other areas of law. And so maybe, Kenya, if you can talk about your experience in that, and maybe some areas that may be a little adjacent to what we do as prosecutors or litigators. I think that might be helpful for everyone to hear about.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to bring both of those worlds together of patent litigation and prosecution. And it's more like, in just terms of, I'm going to address also the work-life balance thing that I've learned. It's more harmony. There's never going to be balance. So if that's what you're trying to achieve, I'm just going to just tell you right now, there's never balance. It's
Like that
so
word, harmony.
yeah, so you're looking for more harmony, like what brings your world together where you can sustain some kind of sanity. So I just wanted to clear that up first. I started in-house, so I'm very a little bit more rare. And so our approach to patent prosecution was also in the realm of a team sport, so it was also we approached it kind of like litigation. Like you had litigation in mind, like how would you, what would make this, if you were on the other side of this in a litigation forum, like how would you write this better? So I bring that part up because I think there is some team aspect to being a prosecutor. And when you're in-house, especially, your
And
business.
Kenya, can you just explain what in-house means to people?
Sorry.
Who know? Yeah.
Sorry. So in-house means that you are inside of a company and you are representing them from an in-house perspective, as opposed to being outside law firm. So your clients are the internal business organization. So, for example, I started at Procter & Gamble. My clients were beauty care experts. They were in skincare, then in cosmetics. So I worked on lipsticks and mascaras. There is a lot of patent work around mascaras. Just put that out there. There is a lot of work that you don't even like, you just take that for granted, that longer, thicker, voluminous lashes are like, there's a war going on out there. more than Pepsi and Coke. I'm telling you, the lash wars are real. So, so my clients are like internal. Those are the people, the inventors that are, behind the scenes. And the cool thing about when you're inside, the team is your business. Like I was saying, what you want to look at is like the cross-functional aspect of it. So if something can make, your lipstick last longer or your skin glow, can it do that the same thing in like a healthcare product? Can it do the same thing in like a laundry care product? So you're thinking not just about your invention with your client, but you're also thinking about other possibilities and pushing beyond the envelope. And I think even if I wasn't at P&G, let's say if I went to this firm and worked with a private client, I would do the same thing, make the same approach to push them beyond the limits of what they think their invention is. Because by the time you get to the finalization of hopefully getting the patent granted, the invention could have changed, technology could have changed, society changes. And so you kind of have to be forward thinking to say, what else can this invention do? What else can it help achieve? What are you not thinking about? And even if you don't claim it, you want to at least put it in the story, because you want to be a storyteller and you want to be able to convince the patent office that your invention is the best thing since sliced bread, and that it is not obvious, and it is, no one ever thought about this in the world. And so you want to think about the possibilities to prevent someone else from possibly blocking you down the road. And, so if it's in the story, at least it's been disclosed to the world and no one else can prevent you. You might not be able to prevent them, but at least they can't prevent you also. So it's really important, is one of the skills, not only just being a team player, but also just being a forward thinker, almost getting that crystal ball out and pushing your inventor beyond the limits of what they bring to you, but make them business savvy. Like think about marketability of their invention. Because there's a lot of things that are patented that cannot be sold on the market. There's like a centrifugal birthing device that I jokingly took to my obstetrician when I was pregnant and saying that I want to use this, but it's a patent for it, believe it or not. So just because, you know, your client brings you something and says, hey, this is my invention, just help them to think beyond it, help them to think about things and ways they can use it in the market.
Great, thank you. That's really important to, you know, think about other skills beside your engineering and legal skills that really sort of impact your practice as a patent practitioner. So Kenya spoke a little bit about working in-house, and James, I know you've worked both in-house and at law firms. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about the difference in working in those different capacities. And Kenya spoke a little bit about that, but maybe from your perspective, can you add on to that?
Yes, thank you again for the opportunity to participate in this panel and give us opportunity to be here. I do agree with Kenya. It definitely is a team sport when you are working in-house. So I think Leo already spoke a little bit about, you know, working outside counsel. I think Kenya touched a little bit about that, about the in-house side of things. So, you know, when you work outside counsel for law firms, so one of the, I think an analogy was given me was the golden handcuffs. So meaning, so I saw some of the salaries that you presented earlier. When you work outside counsel, you get compensated quite a bit more than when you're in-house. The flip side is you work a whole lot more. You basically work almost nonstop. And I was actually pretty shocked by those numbers. Like first year associate getting 200K, that is insane. That's wild. But so when you're working at a law firm, you have the golden handcuffs. You know, you get compensated well, but you work a lot. And so, you know, the life-work balance is not quite there, other than the fact that if you do prosecution, you know your schedule, you know, months ahead of time. On the flip side, when you work in-house counsel, when I was in-house, I worked at Caterpillar as one of the IP counsels. And so, you know, my day starts, you know, basically at like around 8:39, and at around 5:36, I am not afraid to shut my computer and go home and let outside counsel figure out what to do with my cases. So the interesting thing about being in-house is that you are on the forefront of technology. So you work with different business units. I supported the cabs group, electronics group, and also some of the engine research. So all of the upcoming technology that does not even hit the market for 3, 4, 5 years, we're already working on because of the R&D process going on. So it's so interesting to be able to sit down with the engineers, talk about their ideas, trying to figure out, you know, what to claim, trying to figure out what the story is. And kind of like Kenya said, you know, it's based on, you know, heavy machinery, construction, but it's also applicability in other realms of technology. So we're trying to help them think outside the box. And so when you figure that out, you reach out to your outside counsel and say, hey, this is what we have. This is the, you know, invention disclosure. You know, work with the engineers and the inventors to, you know, drop the patent. So one thing I did like, so when I was outside counsel, I really was intrigued by in-house work, because when I was outside counsel, I used the analogy of a curtain. So basically you have a curtain, and then the in-house counsel slides this document under the curtain and said, hey, James, give me a patent. And I was trying to figure out, look, you know, I understand the idea, but what goes on behind the curtain? And so if you are interested in finding out what goes on behind the curtain before your outside counsel receive the IDF, that is where you want to be in-house. You know, be able to manage, you know, the work that outside counsel does, doing some of the review, you know, pay maintenance fees, you know, interacting with, you know, subject matter experts. Those are some of the things that you get to do when you are in-house counsel as opposed to outside counsel. You could be a trusted partner as an outside counsel and immerse yourself with the engineers at the company that you're representing. But I think you have more opportunity to do so when you're actually in-house. So I don't know, maybe I don't know if I missed anything else. Kenya?
Oh, that's perfect. I think that was a great, a really good overview of the differences. Okay, so I want to turn to the Patent Pathways participants, because all of the attorneys have spoken about, sort of the advantages and the aspects of their careers that they enjoy and find beneficial. But I want to hear from the Patent Pathways professional, just to kind of get their perspective on what made them interested in entering the field. So maybe Renetta, can you talk about what made you want to enter the field of patent law, particularly as someone who, already has a career in a different field?
Yes, and thank you again for having me on the panel. So after I finished law school and was admitted to the bar in 2019, I was thinking about how I wanted to integrate my science background with my law degree. And initially when I went to law school, I went just to enhance my writing and critical thinking skills. I wasn't sure exactly if I wanted to actual practice law because I was working in policy at the time as a policy analyst. And so once I, finished law school, I still was trying to get my footing because I went part-time while still working full-time. So my electives were basically what was available at night. And I had taken a food and drug law course and a patent law course, a pharmaceutical patent course. And so I just spent time kind of digging into the, science and different ways that I could integrate that into law. And just reflecting back on patent law, I thought I would just, research it a little bit more. And so in 2020, I started going to different webinars. I joined 2 bar associations that were targeting intellectual property and patent law. And I stumbled up on the Patent Pathways program last year, and I decided to apply. I got accepted, and that's what brought me into the program. And so it's done a great job of giving me a very broad view and also a very detailed view of what's entailed in patent law.
Good, thank you. And Aaliyah, so from your perspective, how has your journey been entering into the field? And maybe can you talk a little bit about how the Patent Pathways program has helped you in that regard?
Yes, hello everyone. So I graduated in 2020 in the middle of COVID. So I was in the market for the engineering job. I guess that's like what you want to do. You want to get your degree and get an engineering job. But because it was COVID, not too many people were hiring at that time. So at the same time, I started a Harity, which is a law firm. They offered a patent basics course. And so it was like a 2-week course. And I just went. I just was curious. It seen it in my email. And I just decided to join for those weeks. And they then reached back out and said, hey, we have this program. Would you like to enter it? And I still haven't had a lucrative job. So I was just in the market for just finding like, what can I do? Like, what area can I go into? Then I realized I don't necessarily want to do engineering. I just kind of was confused. So this program kind of gave me tunnel vision, gave me a direct pathway to choose. And I felt like this was exactly what I needed. I needed a job that would pay well. I have a child, and this was like, it was like that thing, and it felt right. So I joined the program, and here I am. I actually started a tech spec position at a law firm recently. Been there for about 3-4 months now. So definitely am excited. Whole practice.
Very good, very good. So I have more questions, but I wanted to give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have to the panelists.
Hi, everybody. My name is Felicia Lawrence. Actually a professional right now. I'm curious to know If any of you on the panel begin your journey as doing patent agent or patent attorney part-time and transition, how did you transition into that, if that's the case with your patent?
I don't know if you guys did, but I did. So if one of you don't have, so, okay, so.
Could you
yes.
could you repeat the question? I don't think we could. hear.
Oh, she asked how, if anyone on the panel has worked as a patent agent part-time and how you made that transition. So I did, yeah. So I was in law school and I didn't even know about the patent field really. And one of my professors kind of talked to me about it because we had the same undergraduate background, but I didn't really have an interest at the time doing that. But there was an alumni from my school who had a small intellectual property law firm. And he was looking for people with a technical background to come in and work part-time. And so as someone in law school, there are not a lot of law school students who have the background you need to practice in the field. So I did. And so I got the job, no experience. And I worked part-time. I worked part-time while I was in law school. I'm also the mother. I had 2 kids at the time, single mother. My kids were like in kindergarten. So I worked part-time while I was in law school. And when I graduated from law school, I took the patent bar exam. And that's the exam that you need to take in order to become a patent agent. And so I passed that exam, I became a patent agent. And by that time I had graduated from law school. So I was working full-time once I became a patent agent. But there are many people who work part-time as patent agents as well. And in fact, when I was working, before I became a patent agent, technically, I was doing the same exact kind of work that a patent agent does. So did that answer your question?
That's great.
Okay, okay.
I don't know how many people on the panel versus not, but I saw that there was a difference in how much you paid. So other than that, is there any benefit to, even if we go through the program, continuing on going to law school to get a law degree versus not going there?
I feel like Kenya would probably have like a good perspective on that. Did you hear the question, Kenya? Oh, okay.
No, I was going to ask you to read. I was hearing tidbits, but I couldn't hear
Okay.
the whole thing.
What's the advantage of having a law degree and practicing in the field versus not?
Okay. So so at Procter & Gamble, I will say that we did have patent agents that just did patent law, patent prosecution, basically. And I could see the disadvantage. The people who chose that path, that's what they wanted. They didn't care. That's exactly what they wanted to do. And they knew that. I think for those who may want to expand or have possibilities, having the attorney side, have that bar, gives you the possibilities to do more than just the patent prosecution. And I think there are advantages because, it's not patents don't come in a vacuum. Like I was even talking to you before, like about the fact that even when I was writing and drafting patent applications, I'm thinking of marketability, I'm thinking of business, goings and cross functionalities. So I'm thinking of licensing opportunities. I'm drafting in a way that, it might be attractive to somebody who wants to buy or license it. So if without the JD part of it, without the attorney part of it, you're not able to have that holistic approach to the patent itself. You wouldn't be involved in drafting agreements, for example, or license agreements, or getting involved in M&A acquisitions. For somebody like me who is just literally flying on the wings that God provides and didn't know anything about patent law, had I been limited to that, I wouldn't have been able to flow into other spaces such as litigation, and not just patent litigation. I did patent litigation and general litigation. I also did compliance, and now I'm a general counsel that does generalist stuff, which basically means you do labor and employment. That's what general counsels are, basically. I found that out. So, but but you just get the opportunities, you get more opportunities to do more things. And even though I say that I'm a recovered patent attorney, there are still aspects of my career that I touch base in that patent world. So again, if you are looking, or you think that you may want to go beyond the scope of being a patent prosecutor, I would definitely just go ahead and get the JD, pass the bar in whatever state that you need it. If you don't use it, then that's fine. You can go into an inactive status, but you still have that if you ever want to get it in. And so I always say, just it's better to be over prepared and just do whatever it takes. And then if you don't want to use it, that's fine too. But that's the difference, is one is limited in your practice and one gives you opportunity to expand.
Yeah.
And if I may add just
Yeah.
to Ken's
So
answer,
that's true.
so what I do right now is I am in licensing, and so we had the example of Lonnie Johnson before, taking his invention and monetizing his patents to be able to make lots of money. And so that's my company presently. It's kind of like a Spotify of patents for the auto industry. So we take inventions, and then the car companies come to us and they take a license to be able to use those inventions. But I think the key thing that I was hearing from what Kenny was saying is the law degree gets you in the room, it gets you in the door to be able to be exposed to all of these different opportunities, different aspects of intellectual property. Patents are not in a vacuum. They have to be aligned with the business strategy. So by being in the room and hearing what the business wants, what they're trying to do, what their goals are, you're able to align the IP strategy of your company. Even outside counsel, sometimes we do bring them into the conversation, but it is a more holistic view as an attorney. If you're just a patent agent, people will, I guess maybe as James described, slide you the paper, go write this, and then you're in the corner essentially. So I am of the view, that you get the law degree. I did my law degree part-time in the evening while I was an engineer. It does open a lot of doors for you and creates opportunity. And I never thought I would be where I am today as more on the licensing side of IP. Having done the litigation, in-house counsel, it just more opportunities are created by being an attorney.
Does
I can
anybody else
add
on the panel?
one-
Okay.
Just one quick thing too. I agree with everything that was said. And I think you can even expand beyond just patent. I think Kenya's expanded, and now she's the Chief Labor and Employment Specialist at her company. But I know when I was working at CAT, and I was in the IP department, but I reached out to, if I wanted to do it, which I did, because I wanted to become a well-rounded attorney, I reached out to my counterparts on the business side. I've had some dealings with immigration attorneys. I could have done, I could do a lot of different things that a patent agent couldn't do because I had the JD, and I could, I'm a legal expert. And so definitely having the legal background definitely opens a lot of doors. And if you ever think about branching out, outside of patent, even for a little bit, I know a friend of mine who was an IP counsel, now he's a product counsel. So he does some IP, but he's mostly with the product group. And so if you wanted to ever want to touch that and maybe just add on some tools to your tool belt, that's definitely a great way to go about it.
Okay.
I would like to
I
add
can-
something.
can I-
Oh, Go ahead.
yeah,
Aaliyah, you go, and then Leo, you can go after her.
Okay, so like I said, I've been in the patent field for like 3 months, and I don't have a law degree. I just have my engineering degree So speaking from just someone's new and looking out from my perspective, so I'm a tech spec, and so I guess it depends on what are you doing outside. Like for example, I do so much outside of work as well as being a tech spec. So I feel like if I was to go to do law, go get my law degree, it would kind of probably take away from my other adventures that I'm having. Because like in my job, I do my 8 hours a day and that's it. I don't really feel too much pressure to like work overtime, or I can if I want to, but it's just not as much pressure on me as like the attorneys. And it just kind of depends on how ambitious you are. Like you can just be like a patent agent, and that also that will free up a lot of time in your your free time, and you can do other things. So I mean, if you want to do, like, keep in mind like how much the pay and the work, like you're gonna work for it. So if you ain't really trying to work, but you still want to be, and I said I still work hard, but if you ain't, my work balance, life balance is amazing compared to the attorneys. Like I just do my 8 hours and boom, I can leave. I can be done and work tomorrow. Versus the attorneys, they work on so many projects, do so many things, and it's just like, whoa, do I do I really want to do that? So it kind of depends on what you want in life and what you're doing. But just keep that in mind. I feel like it's something that I realized as a technical specialist who will become a pet agent soon. But I do have more free time. I don't have as much responsibility. It's not too much on me. I don't really have too much pressure. I just do my work. I talk to my attorneys. I work directly with the attorneys, and I do what's asked of me. Turn my work in. They respond. I correct, and it's pretty simple. And I'm still fully involved in the patent prosecution process. I'm writing applications. I'm learning new inventions. So I'm still completely involved, but just not as much work as the attorneys made. Not as much. I can't do as much as they do, but I mean, I'm okay with that, me personally. So it's just what you want. Kind of what
Yeah.
you want to know.
No, thank you for sharing that flip perspective, because some people really just don't have aspirations to practice law, but they may have an interest in still working in this space. So that's an important perspective. Okay, so Leo, quickly, if you want to go, we have some more questions. So
Okay,
go
all
quickly,
right.
Leo.
So just to follow up on what Aaliyah and Kenya and Caduce was saying, there are more responsibilities on you as an attorney, and those salaries, they look really good, but keep in mind a couple of things. Those are salaries from the top law firms. And there are other law firms, mid-size, smaller, that are going to have lower salaries. But whatever you see in that salary, you are earning every single one of those dollars. So as an attorney, you're going to be working a lot to make that salary. Also, as an agent, if that's what you want to do, you don't want the additional responsibilities, that's fine. But from the in-house perspective, as an agent, you'll be doing the prosecution, you'll be working on the patents, and you'll know that there's a room where other stuff goes on. And as an attorney, you will be in that room, taking part of those conversations and negotiations, which you can't do as an agent.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right, there were some more questions from the audience. Can you just speak a little louder just so they can hear, if you can?
Can you guys hear me? My name is Richard Sullivan. I go to Purdue University. I'm a senior. I graduated in May. Mechanical engineer major. And so my question is, how do you prepare for law school coming from a technical background?
Okay.
Did you guys hear that question? He asked, how do you
Yeah,
prepare for law
can I
school?
take
coming
a
from
stab
tech
at that? You can't. Because I went through engineering school, didn't know anything about patent law. I went to law school after attending a conference similar to this, where I learned about patent law. I was evaluating my options to either get a PhD or an MBA, and someone said, "Hey, have you ever thought of patent law?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" Did some research, learned about it, and I was like, law school it is. And then I went to law school, and I had a hard time starting out in law school, because I came from a background where 1 + 1 = 2. And you go to law school and it's like, well, 1 + 1, well, maybe it's 2, but maybe it's not.
It depends.
Like, what do you mean?
That's the favorite thing that
What do
they
you
say
mean
in
it
law school.
depends? So
What is the
I
definition of
had a
what?
hard time with that. So you just have to be open-minded, and you're going to be doing a lot of reading. The only thing I would say to prepare is to keep an open mind, and also realize that you're going to be reading a lot every day. It never ends.
Yeah, I think everybody on the panel can answer, may have a point of view about this. So if anyone
Anybody
else,
else wants to?
since we all have technical background or engineering tech backgrounds, anyone else?
I wanted to say, I agree that you can't really prepare. I will say I played brain games a lot, which is what made me say I wanted to go to law school. I know that's really nerdy, but those deductive reasoning games were ended up on the LSAT actually. And I think that way of thinking did help me in law school. Statistically, scientists actually do better in law school than most other majors, other than English, probably. So I wouldn't let the science or the tech background scare you into going to law school. Like me, I could recite the first 3 rows of the periodic table, but honestly, I could not tell you what the 3 branches of government was before I went to law school. I'm not lying. Like, I didn't know where law firms were. I thought they were in New York and LA because that's what they were on TV. So, I was on this. I mean, I didn't know where law firm. I got accepted for an internship at the top law firm in Cincinnati. And I was so unimpressed, and people thought I was crazy because I was like, I don't know what this means, So I came to Cincinnati to go to Procter & Gamble. I didn't know what anything. I mean, I was so green and so naive, but I think it helped me because it made me say, okay, you go into law school with a fresh slate. Everybody's on the same playing field. Those people who were poli-sci majors, actually, I did learn, like, poli-sci majors, they actually were like, I should have never been a poli-sci major. It did not prepare me for law school. It was the antithesis of law school, and it messed them up. So, don't think that any major is going to be like more advantageous in you. Being a scientist teaches you how to think. It teaches you how to analyze. And that's really what law is. It's the analysis of things. Yes, 1 + 1 is a depend now, but you have the analytical brain and the tools to decipher what it means to depend. Like, what does it depend? The context and why it's 2 in one case, it's 3 in another case, and it's 0 in another case. Now you get to articulate why it should just be 2, because that's what, the laws of mathematics state, but you have to be open-minded to the fact that there's a context that makes it 3 or a context that makes it 0. And as long as you're open to that possibility, and as long as you're willing to do the analysis that it takes and try to refrain yourself from getting those concrete numbers that we love because the abstract sucks, then I think you'll be fine. So that's my advice.
Yeah,
And play brain games. They're actually fun too.
they are fun.
There's a whole section in Barnes and Noble. You can just go and get a book.
With you on that, Ken.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Anyone else on
And,
the panel? You have?
Yeah, sure. I think the preparation, as everybody said, there's nothing specific to do, but I think the preparation starts now, right? What you're doing in this room, talking to us, listening to us, is part of the preparation. If you know someone who's a lawyer in your family or family friend, talk to them about what they do. Just various aspects. If you have any way of connecting to a lawyer, reach out. Most will be willing to talk to you for a short period of time and tell you about their practice area. Just because, I think one thing, if you do decide to go to law school, it's good to be intentional, to know what you want to do there. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time investment. So, going in, knowing what you want to do, I think would be really helpful. To my mind, when I went to law school, I was still working. And so that's what I did. I talked to people, some of my former undergraduate colleagues who went from engineering school straight to law school, about their experience, right? So I think those are the kind of things that you can do best. I don't know if you can read enough to prepare yourself going in, but hopefully you like reading, because that's a big aspect of it, as was described earlier.
Yeah, it's a lot of reading.
That's a lot of reading, yeah.
I guess I'll add a couple of things. I agree with what everybody said as well. When I was going to law school, I had no idea. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know I was going to go to law school until my senior year in college, after I had accepted a job to be a software engineer. And so, but I think what Kuda said is spot on. If I would have known, I would have spoken with somebody, like spoken with an attorney, You know, spoke with some people who, you know, law students, anybody who is in that field or has touched that field, just speak with them and get their experience, you know, trying to get them to share their experiences and some of the things that they do, speak with patent attorneys, you know, stuff like that. And I think networking is pretty big. People are always willing to talk to you. People are always willing to help. You know, these attorneys might charge you, but billable hours. But no, they'll be willing to help if we want to talk to you. And obviously, you know, take a prep course for the LSAT, which is, you know, I did that. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, great.
I'll add one thing, and in terms of once you decide to go to law school, once you start, my biggest advice would be to sign up for the LSAT prep course right away, like day one, because they do more than prepare you to take the LSAT after law school. I mean, not the bar review course. They prepare you to go through some of your classes during law school, help you get the mindset of how to analyze things. And what Kenya said, being an engineer, you have this analytical mind. So when you get that information from the bar review course in terms of how to analyze it, makes life so much easier. And you're gonna need the bar review course before you take the bar anyway. So just sign up for it right away is gonna, I think that's probably the best thing I did in law school.
They give you discounts if you sign up
They have
early.
like a shortened course for pre-law school courses. I think I've heard they offer short courses for pre-law.
Okay, and we had another question.
So are there any funding opportunities out there for you that's in law school, like fellowships or anything that you can apply for that exist?
For law school in particular? Yeah, there are lots of opportunities. A lot of law schools, quite frankly, are looking to increase the diversity in their schools. And so they will offer fellowships. I went to school on a fellowship that came directly from the school. There are, you know, outside external organizations that also give fellowships. I don't have any in particular that come to mind, and I don't know if anyone on the panel does, but there are very many opportunities to get funding.
And there's also law firms that you can work for a law firm as a tech specialist during law, and the requirements to get into a law school, they'll pay for your law school, but you'll be working full-time during the day, going to law school at night. I think Cruz and myself.
I also went part-time
yeah,
at
we all went
night to
part-time
law
at night.
school. And also working for the Patent and Trademark Office is an option as well. They also did that.
Yeah,
path.
so I was a patent examiner at the USPTO, went to law school at night in the evening, got some reimbursement through the
And they'll
government
pay,
program.
yeah.
Yeah. Part-time is 4 years instead of 3 full-time.
I was gonna say there's firms and there's some companies that will also pay for your schooling, but you'll owe them like labor afterwards.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Not to mention that.
So yeah,
you know.
anywhere you get funding from, you owe them time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you owe them time, kind of like like military, so, but, if you like where you are, that's a path to go. And, if you have to spend 3 years at that place, you have to spend 3 years somewhere. So,
I'll also add, like, if you apply to a law school, you should simply ask for money. That's what I did.
Yeah, that's true.
And I got it,
Never
so
hurts
don't
to
be
ask.
afraid to ask.
that is true.
I went to Brooklyn Law School, but I got accepted to other law schools and I asked for money and they offered. I just went to the one that gave me the most, so.
It's all about negotiation.
Yeah,
Tell
don't
them
be
what you
afraid
have,
to
tell them
ask.
what your career aspirations are, and they see value in you, they invest in you. That's and on a related note, James, do you want to talk a little bit about becoming like an owner of a law firm? That's another career path I think people might be interested in.
Right. So I'm very risk averse. And so, starting this journey was not, it was never in the cards for me up until probably, I don't know, 2020 when I did the incubator program. And so, you know, the journey has been very positive. So, you know, I did the incubator program with Harity, and under that, I, you know, basically learned how to operate and run a law firm. And I have worked with them for a few years prior, doing patent prosecution. Like I said, I was in-house counsel at Caterpillar, and also I was an associate general counsel at the University of Central Florida. So I have some experience with, you know, broad aspects of patents. And so what I mostly did there was basically sharpen up my skills for drafting, and also learn how to run a law firm. So, you know, definitely some positives. You know, talking to people and networking is pretty big. You know, like I said, people are always willing to talk to you and give you some pointers. Definitely the Heritage did that. And other people that I spoke with as well. Finding, doing some business development and finding clients has been an interesting process. But, you know, so far we've been pretty lucky to have had some existing relationships with clients that I've worked with in the past that have been able to, you know, give us opportunity to represent them. Again, through connections and people in you know, living here in Florida, I was able to make a connection with another decent, another big company. I did some LinkedIn contacting, and interestingly landed another client. So the process of landing clients has been, you know, it's been an interesting journey, and also running a law firm. So there's a little, like a seminar or something that I did, and one of the projects was to describe the journey, and one of it was like I had an image of a person wearing different hats. I love hats. I have a huge collection of hats, and I'm literally figuratively wearing hats. You know, I'm an attorney. You know, I have to take care of the IT. You know, I have to help with the docketing. You know, I have some hands in the paralegal, obviously hiring. These are a lot of different things that I was not aware of when I was working at a law firm or in-house, because all of those different aspects were basically taken care of me. And when I was at a law firm, I just had to show up, you know, drop my patent applications or prosecute it and then be done. When I was working in-house, you know, interfacing with the engineers, you know, talk with the paralegal support staff, you know, send instruction out to the outside counsel, you know, draft agreements, but all the infrastructure was already in place. And so, but starting a law firm, I had to get all of these things in place. And so it's been an interesting journey, but overall it's been pretty positive. Like I said, a lot of people are willing to help. A lot of people are willing to talk to you. And another big thing for me, I don't know for other people, I have a goal in mind. And our goal for this law firm is diversity driven, and more specifically on the high school level. Our goal is to increase the pipeline of high school students going into college and even vocational schools. And so we've been involved in some of the high schools in our area, and we've awarded scholarships. And as long as we have a goal in mind, to me, as long as I have that goal, it'll keep me going. You know, we can have some, you know, positives and you know, some not so positives. And as long as you have that goal in mind, it keeps you going. At least it keeps me going. And so that's it's an interesting path. But it's definitely rewarding. And so if anybody has any questions about it, I'd be happy to talk to them offline. But it's been pretty rewarding, especially if you have like the support and the networking behind. It definitely makes a lot of things easier.
Great, thank you. Are there any? Okay.
How busy as far as like the entries coming in? Is it like a continuous flow of work?
James, the question was how busy are you in terms of
Is this for particularly for as a, is it for him particularly, or you mean just generally speaking?
Oh, generally,
okay,
okay.
okay. She's, we have an audience member who asked, how busy are you in terms of your workload, sort of? Yeah, and sort of, okay, so maybe this is a good question. Leo, for a prosecutor, would get, as a prosecutor, you get, I think, more of a flow
Yeah.
of work more regularly than you might.
Yeah, it's the work is, I mean, every firm's going to be different. You'll generally a firm that's going to hire someone has work to give them, especially a larger firm. So you will probably have a pretty steady workflow. It may not all be in the specific technology you want to work in. Technology depends on the clients that the firm currently represents. So you'll get to work on a lot of different things. And one thing, at least for me, is that prosecution has been a nonstop learning experience because I've gone to a couple of different firms. I've worked with different clients, and each time I'm having to learn a whole lot about something completely different than what I learned in school. So if you have that engineering mindset and you like technology, you like learning, then you'll have a pretty good workflow on a lot of different things.
Yeah, okay. Does anybody else have, want to add to that? Okay.
Any other questions?
No, we're a little over time. Yeah, did you guys hear that question? How do you find opportunities as tech specialists at a law firm?
A couple of
I
different
would-
ways.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you can work through, there are some recruiters out there that specialize, well, they don't specialize in placing patent agents, but they are technical specialists, but they can help you. But also sites like LinkedIn, their career section, Indeed, a lot of the job sites, some law firms do post positions there, especially for technical specialists, where they they may not have recruiters or may not have an avenue that the attorneys would have. So check job boards, LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, all of those. You may find postings for technical specialists.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, basically. So, and we're
Yeah.
a little bit over, so I don't know if any of the panelists need to sign off. I want to be respectful of their time, so if they need to sign off, feel free, and we can continue here to answer your questions. And so if you guys need to sign off, I just want to thank you for joining us in the panel today. And if before you sign off, if you have any advice that you want to provide to the audience, that would be great.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
oh, go ahead. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. I have to sign off in 5 minutes. But I think, it's been a pleasure, being here and participating in this panel and speaking with you today. If you look at my career, I've been an engineer, litigation, worked in-house on the patent portfolio strategy, and now I'm doing licensing. It just shows the variety that you can have in this career. It can be very fruitful and can be very rewarding as well. What I would say to you, if you're interested, just reach out. I'm sure most of us on the panel here will be happy to talk to you if you have any further questions. I'm certainly, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way for you to get in touch with me if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Kadus, for joining us.
All right.
Kenya?
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you, and same as Kadus, I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me. This is a networking field. I mean, like if there is any field out there, the legal field is very network driven. So it's definitely about making connections. Who do you know? Where are opportunities? I mean, we help navigate some of these spaces and uncover places where, opportunities lie. So feel free to reach out. It's been a pleasure to share my experience and bring games with you.
Thank you. Thank you so
So
much
thank you.
Tanya, for joining us.
Thank you.
And so I just want to
Go ahead, Adam.
add a plug for Patent Pathways, because if you're still in the space where you aren't sure and you're doing your research, Patent Pathways is, like, I think, the best avenue to get real exposure to what the field looks like. Opportunities like this, where we had this panel and you get the opportunity to meet practitioners, we did that regularly in the program. And so you get networking, you get professional development, opportunities to, build your resume. So it's just phenomenal. So it was one of the best things I did in terms of really understanding the field and making an informed decision. So that's my plug.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for adding that. Okay. James Leo, any final words?
I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity to be part of this panel. It's it's a privilege and honor to be here. I think I just want to echo what everybody said. It's all about networking. First of all, if you're interested, this is such an exciting field. If you're interested in technology, if you are interested in using engineering background in a different capacity and still stay with still use your engineering skills, this is such an amazing career path to follow. And if you're interested, pursue it and reach out to people. You can reach out to me, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to speak with you. But reach out and build your network. And building a network will enable you to land different opportunities. And because the opportunities out there, and is just for you for yours for the taking. So reach out to people, talk to a lot of people, do a lot of networking, and if you're interested, please pursue this career. We need a lot more engineers in this field. So again, thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you who've already gave your final word, if you need to log off, just feel free to, because I know we're over time. Leo, but bye, Kenya. Bye, Caduce.
I can actually hang out for a little bit longer, but
Okay.
I'll echo what everyone has been saying. It's about networking and getting information ahead of time. You can reach out to us. I think we're all on LinkedIn. So you can reach out, connect, ask questions. And like I said, I kind of stumbled into patent law. I wish I had known I had these opportunities to meet people, talk to them, and learn about different aspects of patent law that might have shaped the direction I took going into practice. I think I probably would have done a little bit more litigation and transactional work, because I do enjoy being kind of like in that room where things are happening and knowing what the companies are doing. So that would have been helpful. And as someone who went to law school as almost like a rebellion against engineering, because I found out that the hard way that linear algebra had nothing to do with algebra, and and so I was a little bit bitter. Obviously, I'm still a little bit bitter, but there are, patent law is a great way to maintain your the use of your engineering skills and actually do more and excel and go and branch out into a whole lot of different fields. So any questions you have, again, I can hang out for a little bit longer if people have questions, but if not, feel free to reach out to us, because we all have different experiences. I've never worked in-house, and I've never worked as an engineer. So I went straight from from engineering school to law school into a law firm. So that's all I've ever done. So my experience is going to be different from Kenya's and Caduce's and James's. So, feel free to ask us whatever you like.
Thanks, Leo. Aaliyah, do you have any final words?
Sure. Definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. My perspective is from someone straight from engineering school to a law firm as a technical specialist. So I'm still pretty new, and I can give you a different perspective from someone who's been in the field for like 20 plus years. So if you have any questions as far as it, especially if you are about to graduate from engineering school and you just kind of wanted to see like what is life like as a tech spec, or what is your experience, I'm there to answer any questions. Thank you everyone. I will see you guys at another time.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Aaliyah.
much.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Oh, and you know what? Here's a plug for patent law. If that's something you're thinking about, I would not discourage my kids from getting into patent law. There are a lot of things I discourage them from doing, but I would not discourage them from getting into patent law. So, if it's good enough for my kids, I think, you can think it's, when I say it's a great field, I'm being totally honest.